Good evening and welcome to the Fine Gardening UK Tour Q&A. I'm Danielle Sherry. I'm the executive editor of Fine Gardening magazine and a co-tour host. And I am here today with Annie Guilfoyle. Annie, good evening.
It's lovely to see you, lovely to hear you, and yeah, very excited.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I want to introduce you to anyone who's, listening in today. Annie Guilfoyle. If you don't know her, why don't you know her? No, she's fantastic. She is a RHS Silver Medal Award winning Chelsea Flower and Garden Show garden creator and designer. She is also a well-renowned garden designer in her own right across the UK. Last time we got together, we talked about some of your most exciting projects that you are working on right now, which I'm very excited to hit on. Annie has also been on the BBC. She has hosted a garden design show on the BBC. Annie is also one of the co-founders of Garden Masterclass, which is an incredible pursuit that she does with Noel Kingsbury, which hosts all sorts of tours and educational programs, both online and in person. Annie, what else do you do? Are you an astronaut on the side as well?
Yeah, nuclear physics was no. I think you've got everything there. I think that covers everything, as well as teaching and lecturing at Chanticleer, which I love every year, and at Great Dixter and at Westdean. So yeah, teaching and designing, and yeah, that's kind of my mix. Yeah.
Wonderful. And
Mm.
and Annie is as delightful, if not more delightful, in person as she is on Zoom, I will say. But we're incredibly excited about this tour. I just wanted to express to everybody. I know that sometimes marketing copy comes off as a little disingenuous, but this has been something that Annie and I have been talking about for several years now. So it is literally coming to fruition after probably maybe 4 years of talking about, right, Annie?
Yeah. No, it's very exciting. Really
We're
exciting. Yeah.
we are. And we came at this from what have what tours have we been on or hosted or done, and what are the things that we did not like about those tours? We're gonna do the opposite. So right off the top, I know that we had several questions that were just nitty gritty, and I'm gonna address those right here and now. Everyone wants to know the maximum number on this tour, and Annie, you and I have both been on tours with 100+ people, and that's not fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely.
So we will be doing a maximum number of 35 people on this tour. That is it. And I know that that sounds very, very small to people, but that really is going to allow us a greater flexibility in the gardens that we're going to visit, some of which are down tiny country lanes, as you had said, Annie.
Very small country lanes. Yeah.
So we will
Yeah.
not be taking huge, enormous coach buses too. And also, access to the garden creators and the garden designers and you yourself, Annie, that smaller number is really important to
hmm
us.
hmm
Um, Another thing that everyone has been asking is, am I going to have to pack my suitcase 18 different times as we make our way across Somerset County? No. That is something that's been a big sticking point for me. The night that you come in, we will all be staying at the airport hotel at Heathrow just to let everyone decompress. Then we'll be heading over to Bath, which we have kind of centered our entire tour on, and staying in one hotel, beautiful accommodations at the Indigo Bath for the entire duration of the tour. So you will not have to do that. Another thing that we wanted to get right out of the way, right up front and off the top, is that no, we will not be loading ourselves onto giant coach buses and traveling for 18 hours in one direction where everyone gets car sick the entire time. Annie has done
Yeah.
an excellent job about centering us on Bath. And Annie, really, most of these places are within a short period of
Oh,
time travel, correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, each day, there's only one day where we're going really a little bit further afield, and it's only a couple of hours, which in American time and American travel, that's not that you get a pint of milk 2 hours away, don't you? I mean, So that's not really a big deal. Everything else is really within a very short distance of Bath, which will make it so less stressful. And we are just so lucky that there's some amazing things centered around Bath, or located around Bath. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
And
mm.
before I kick it entirely over to Annie, because we did have a lot of questions and questions are coming in on the chat that we're going to ask, but I wanted to let you know another big sticking point for me was I love going on garden tours, but I hate it when the tour leader, as knowledgeable as they aren't really familiar with the area. If I'm going to a Pennsylvania garden tour, I want someone who's from Pennsylvania leading that tour. And we are lucky enough because Annie is from the area, originally from the area. A lot of these folks that'll be on the tour are their private gardens, are friends and acquaintances of yours, Annie, right? For many, many
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I was born in Somerset, although down on Exmoor, so a little bit south of Bath. But the West Country is my home county, from where I grew up, and yeah, it's a wonderful part of the country. Yeah,
So we're very excited because it doesn't get much more inclusive than that. We are really going to see, the area through your eyes and the gardens through your eyes. So
yeah,
we're very excited
definitely.
about that. All right, enough of me. All
Okay,
right, we're
yeah,
going to dig right in. Are you ready, Annie?
yeah, I am absolutely.
Okay. So our first question came in from Alice R, and this was via Facebook. And Alice asks, why did you select these locations for the tour, and why aren't you going to some of the more well-known gardens in the UK like Great Dixter and Sissinghurst?
Okay. Well, there's lots of answers to that question, and I think when when Danielle and I started plotting, where would we do our first tour together, we wanted something different. We wanted something new. We wanted something that people wouldn't have done before, and so we talked about various locations, but the West Country was really something that packed a lot in. There was a lot packed in, and Dixter is one of my favorite gardens ever in the world. It's up there with Chanticleer. It's one of it's absolutely dear to my heart. But it's at the other end of the country, but of course in England that's only 4 or 5 hours away from Bath. However, if you really really want to go to Sissinghurst or Dixter, come a couple of days earlier or stay a couple of days later and tag that onto the end of the trip, by all means. But also, the other thing is that lots of other people do trips to those gardens. They are very well visited, very busy in the summer. So we chose a very eclectic mix of gardens that, you won't have. In fact, in most of the gardens, there we will be the only people there. So, that's wonderful. But I would say if you've never been to Sissinghurst or Dixter and you want to come to England and do that, well, tag another week onto the holiday. And we also timed this that it was just running after Chelsea Flower Show. So if you're desperate to go to Chelsea, you have to book your tickets pretty much right now today. But you could do that. You could front end the tour with a few days in London and book some time at Chelsea. So, but that honestly, the tickets do go like crazy. So, but it gives you flexibility. So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say, a lot of the places that were mentioned here, Great Dixter, Sissinghurst, you don't need a personal invitation to go to. Those are public gardens that you could visit
Absolutely.
at any
Yeah,
time in any place. The gardens that are on our tours, these are private gardens. This is like
mhm,
me inviting you over to my garden. You need an
absolutely.
invitation, and Annie
Yeah.
has secured us those
Yes, yes,
invitations.
yes, absolutely. A foot in
Wonderful.
the garden. We've got a foot in the garden gate. Yeah.
We do. We
Yeah.
do. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
All right. So we have another one that came in from Instagram, and this is Are You There, Goddess? She says, or I shouldn't make assumptions. This person says, I'm primarily interested in edible gardening. Do you think there will be something on this tour for me, or is it primarily just ornamental gardens you will be visiting?
Well, no, because I mean, yes, there will be something. So on day 3, we go to the Yeo Valley Organic Garden, and Yeo Valley in the UK is a big dairy producer. So they make yogurt and cheese and so on and so forth. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing their organic garden, which is one of the only fully organic ornamental gardens in the country. but they do have a vegetable and fruit garden, and we will be very much talking about that. And we will also be having a lecture about biodiversity within whatever you're growing. So that's absolutely very much part of it. And also Alison Jenkins, who's another one of our tours. Alison has what we call in England a small holding. I don't know if you use that term in the States.
Mm.
What that means is it's smaller than a farm, but it's bigger than a garden. So Alison has a field, she has a couple of sheep, but her garden is about growing produce and growing flowers, and it is a productive garden. And she also runs courses there as well. So there will be a mixture of ornamental growing and, food growing as well. So definitely, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's so. Are you there, goddess? The answer is yes. Yes, there will be. But that's a good segue into our next question from Elizabeth H via Instagram, Annie. Elizabeth wanted to know what sorts of workshops will be included on the tour, and that was something that was exceptionally important to both you and I, was that there were educational components to this
Yes,
tour.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on when we go to Yo Valley Organic Garden, we are there all day, and the morning is very much a tour around the garden, understanding their principles for their own gardening, and that they're very, very firmly organic. But then we will have a hands-on workshop with a woman called Nicola Hope, who is an RHS Master of Horticulture, and she's going to be talking about biodiversity. So that will be a sort of a workshop as such. In terms of the other gardens, really, we will be having, I would say, a lecture, a sort of tour, a kind of lecture guide with people. So it won't be just, here's my garden, my gate is open. James Hitchmo is one of the most extraordinary and plantsmen, and was the principal of horticulture at Sheffield University. So he is, he will not be just saying, here's my garden, isn't it lovely? He will be talking about the nitty gritty, and his garden is very new and very young. So and quite, he is on the cutting edge of garden design and planting design. You just need to Google James Hitchmo. I mean, he created the Olympic Park with Nigel Dunnett and Sarah Price. He's doing a massive project in Australia at the moment. So and then with lovely Keith Wiley, again, he won't be just sort of leading you around the garden. He will be explaining his principles of planting, and how he plants companion plants together, right plant, right place, how he creates habitats within the garden for certain types of plants. So he has very much kind of sculpted the garden to work for certain types of plants only. So I mean, all of the trips really, I would say, are educational. But the workshop that we would kind of be getting involved with, that's at Yo Valley. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
And then we also, I think, we
yeah.
also have a cut flower workshop
We
as
do,
well,
yes, yes,
correct?
we do. So on the last day, or on the Friday, we will be going to Hauser and Wirth in the morning, which is the most wonderful art gallery with the Pete Adolf garden. But then we go to meet the most extraordinary woman called Georgie Newbury, who has her business is Common Farm Flowers. And Georgie, again, have a look at her on YouTube or on Instagram. She is amazing at teaching and lecturing, and she will be demonstrating to us, talking about her cut flower farm, but also demonstrating handheld posies and how to create them. So yeah, that will be a lot of fun, and she's so entertaining. She's a lovely woman.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
and Annie is being humble too. We are also getting an exclusive, I believe it is the evening before we depart ways, right,
That's right,
Annie?
on the Saturday. Yes, yes, yes.
You are
I'm going to
giving
be.
an exclusive lecture to the entire group at our hotel. And I loved this. We kind of spitballed ideas, and you're going to be doing a focus basically on ideas that you can implement in your own garden, and kind of innovative garden design ideas taken from the Chelsea Flower and Garden Show. So ideas from this year, ideas from past years. Are we
Yeah.
covering it all, Annie?
Yes, yes, we are. And because the week before, I won't be lying around kind of resting and thinking about meeting you guys. I'm judging at Chelsea. So I will be at Chelsea Flower Show. But whilst I'm there, I can gather, what's hot, what are people doing, what's new, what's interesting, what's innovative, take lots of photographs, chat to a few people. And so definitely we'll put those into the talk. But if there's anything from past years that I think, oh my goodness, this was, really interesting, we need to discuss this, I will throw that in as well, because it'll be of value. So yeah.
So I will say, yes, second only to going to Chelsea, if you're able to tack it on to the beginning of this tour, which we purposely did.
Yes.
If you're not able to go, you will still come away with that Chelsea Garden wow at the end of this tour, because
Yeah.
we decided to include that exclusive lecture as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's at least, I mean, we've just named off at least 6 different opportunities that are educational opportunities, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it will be great. It really will be great. I mean, even Alison Jenkins, Derry Watkins. Derry is a wonderful American who's lived here now for longer than she lived in the States, but she is through and through American, and we'll be visiting her home garden and her nursery,
Mm.
and that in itself will be so well, educational, because Derry is all about pushing the boundaries with growing things that are slightly tender, unusual. I mean, when you see the range of plants she has in the nursery, you'll be amazed. And Alison as well, in terms of growing, all of our hosts really do teach and lecture, so they are used to kind of imparting information and answering questions, and you can really, you can delve deep into what they're doing. It's not superficial. It's like, okay, let's really get to grips with this. Yeah.
That's incredible
Mm,
access.
mm,
I
mm.
will say, having been on many garden tours before, I love being in a beautiful space, but
Mm.
also then having access to the garden creator to ask them,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is the methodology behind this magic? I just think
yeah.
I personally am excited about that.
Yes, yes, no, definitely.
All right, so I better stop chatting here. We've got Liam 4Q4A from Instagram wants to know, I've never been to the UK. Will this tour be a good introduction to the
Oh,
country?
oh, absolutely. What can I say? If you've never been to the UK, I would suggest, if you can, tag on a little bit of time either side of it to see somewhere else, or do things that you want to do. But it really will be, because you're seeing. I mean, Bath is the most beautiful city. It's tiny compared with other cities like London. Very historic. We can't get away from the Roman side of Bath, with the Roman baths and everything. So you'll have time to spend there, and it's a walkables. It's a small city. I mean, I can't think of a city that, in America are probably called a town, but it's small. But then you're seeing the most, well, I'm biased, the most beautiful part of the country, very soft rolling hills. Yeah, I think if this is your introduction to the UK, it would be wonderful. And I always find, like, if I'm teaching or taking students anywhere, the first thing I say is, has anyone been here before? Because if you haven't, gosh, it's so much more exciting to be discovering something new. So I hope you decide to come, because you will not regret it.
I love that. That question flowed right into John F. via email. And I will say this, we'll take a pause for a moment. If after the fact, anyone who's listening has some questions that haven't been addressed, we're getting through as many as we can here. Please feel free to email us. Annie and I will respond. It's info@finegardening.com. That's info at finegardening.com. We're manning that email box. So if you've got questions after the fact, feel free to email us and we will get back to you. But John F. had said he wanted to know a little bit about what to expect from the city of Bath. He says it looks quite charming, but is it easy to navigate and enjoy if you're not familiar with the layout of the city
Oh
already?
my goodness, yeah. You'll be surprised at how tiny it is. And there's sort of hills all around the centre of Bath. It's very beautiful, very historic. I would do a little bit of Google research for yourself, but there's, the Roman baths, lots of historic. There's an American museum there, actually, which I don't know if you want to go to an American museum in Bath, but it's charming because it's doable on foot. You don't have to worry. It's such a lovely place. You can just do a little bit in the evenings and just wander around, and yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
That's great to hear, because we do have a couple of free nights or free time
Mm.
that's built in for everyone, because that was another one of Annie's and my,
Yeah,
things that we didn't want to do was completely exhaust people with, 14-hour days and give you no free time whatsoever on your own to
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
able to explore. So there are some free time. So to know that we're not dropping people into the middle of New York City and saying, figure the subway out
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. There's certainly no subway in Bath, let me tell you. In fact, I mean,
Okay.
I can't imagine. There are taxis, I imagine. There are buses, but actually, the centre of Bath, they have made it not completely pedestrianised, but they've cut down the amount of cars that can come into Bath. So actually, that makes it really a pleasant place to be, sort of, from a health point of view, but also walking around. So yeah, it's lovely. You will love it. Yeah.
And we were very insistent on wanting the hotel that we chose not only to be lovely, wonderful, and beautiful and accommodating, but that it was centrally located in Bath. So there
Yes.
will be no reason for anyone to have to,
Oh, you don't
hire
need
a
to take,
car.
yeah, you certainly don't need to hire cars or taxis or anything like that because everything is walkable. It's hilly, but it's walkable.
Okay, all right. Love it.
Bring your walking shoes. Yeah.
Like it. I like it. All
Mm.
right. So we've got Rory, King of OK. Oh, the King of Oklahoma has
Okay.
wrote in via Instagram and said, I am a beginning gardener and I've not heard of a lot of these places or designers. Do you think this tour will be too much, quote unquote, above my head?
No, not at all. In fact, you're going to be ahead of the curve, and no, definitely not, because all of these places, I know all of the owners, personally, and they are all people that if you're you want to dig deep into the nitty gritty, or if you want to look at it from a superficial point of view, or you just want to enjoy being there, they're not going to judge your questions. I'd say you've chosen really well, and that you will have a lovely range. You can enjoy them for what they are, or you can really focus in on the people that you want to learn more from. But brilliant choice of people to learn from, because they are kind of the best we've got, really. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I will say I'm a little intimidated too. Rory,
Oh
don't,
no.
I am a little intimidated, but I'm also excited about having that access to
I think
someone.
the one thing about people, and this is the same in the States, so I know it's the same there, but one thing about people involved with horticulture and gardening and plants is that they are all absolutely willing to share. There are very few egos where people are keeping things to themselves. People are so generous and open, and I think quite the opposite. People are just wanting to enthuse and share. And I know it's the same in the States because I've spent a bit of time there, and I think when you're around people who are interested in gardening, whether you've just started or you've been doing it for 40 years, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right? Passion is passion, and
Oh
that's what
yeah, yeah.
connects us.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, I think some of these people like James Hitchmer will be so excited if somebody's new and fresh to them, because they can indoctrinate you with all this wonderful information and you'll go away supremely confident. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. I
yeah, yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, we have Patricia and Nathan chimed in via the FG forums. And I will say, if you are a member of the Fine Gardening membership, we have a forum page set up dedicated to this tour. So if you don't want to email us, or if you want to chat with other people who are thinking about being on the tour or on the tour already, you can go to the Fine Gardening forums. It's right up on our navigation bar on fg.com. Ask a question in there as well. So Patricia and Nathan want to know, is this tour connected to the RHS or Chelsea show at all?
No, I mean, only in as much as we carefully timed it so that it would run afterwards. Because so that if you really wanted to come and visit RHS Chelsea, you can. But I must emphasize, you really need to book those tickets ASAP because they sell out, really quickly. But no, it's not affiliated to the RHS. This is a fine gardening event, and it's something that Danielle and I have come up with. But we wanted people to have that opportunity if they have the time and the stamina to do some days at Chelsea or a day at Chelsea, and then join our trip. So yeah.
The only unofficial connection we have is Annie. Annie is
Oh
our
yeah, I mean, I'm
connection.
a judge, and you'd have to pay me lots of money for me to tell you secrets, but no, I'm obviously I work as a judge at Chelsea, but no, it's not, we're not, otherwise we're not affiliated to the RHS.
I'll give everyone listening, if you end up on the tour, here's the insider's track of the best question to ask Annie about Chelsea. Why are there so many vacuum cleaners?
Yeah,
That I'm
yeah,
just going to leave it at that.
okay, yeah,
And then
yeah,
we'll
okay.
know that's our insider trading
Absolutely.
question
That
to
could be
ask.
that can be the that can be the code for
I
people
like
getting
it.
right. Okay.
I like it. Just remember why are there so many vacuum cleaners? Okay, is there a payment plan for this tour? Someone anonymously posted that on the FG forum. That's a good one for me to field. I'm all things technical. No, there's not a payment plan, but we are only having everyone do a deposit initially, and it is a fraction of the total cost of the tour. The deposits are due by February 21st. And then we have a payment plan after that of when you have to fulfill the full payment and also, have proof of travel insurance, which is something that we are requiring. It's a good idea. You all probably are well aware that even if you're just taking a trip to Florida, nowadays you definitely want travel insurance. So, no payment plan per se through us, but a payment schedule. So you're not having to upfront pay for the entire tour cost. Okay, next one. Well, we've kind of addressed this, but I'll have you address it again. This was Rebecca S. via Facebook Messenger, Annie, and she wants to know, will we meet James Hitchmo, Keith Wiley, and the other designers whose gardens we are visiting?
Absolutely. And there would be no point going, well, no, that's not true. There would be a point going, but oh my goodness me, of course we will. The whole point is that we have them talking to us about the garden and the work they've done. So in every garden we have the creators there, and the gardener, to talk to us. So no, definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful. And that's, again, and that's another aspect of this tour that is a little bit different. So I think,
Yeah.
important to point out because that's not always the case. Again, been on a lot of
Mm-hmm.
garden tours. You're not always meeting the designer or
Yeah,
have access to the designer slash home garden.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
All right, we've got Kim T via email, and that's info@finegardening.com. Kim writes, I'm really interested in sustainable gardening. Will there be any gardens on this tour that embrace more of a sustainable design approach?
All of them.
All right, there we go.
That's the easy answer. No, well, it's true actually. No, here in the UK now, sustainability, biodiversity is, and regenerative gardening, they are such big topics, but all of these gardens are about sustainability. Especially, I would say, Alison Jenkins is very much in, and Yo Valley very much into sustainability. Georgie Newberry at Common Farm Garden Plants, as is Keith. I mean, there isn't anybody and James Hitchmer, they will all be talking about sustainable and biodiversity and how we can be growing for the future and hopefully thinking about the climate in mind. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see. Marianne S. again via email. Marianne writes, and this is something that I'm glad she wrote in about because I want to address. I'm concerned that late May might be a little early in the season there. I'm from Minnesota, where it can snow in Maine. Are the gardens going to be lush and full at this time of year for the tour?
Right. Well, I obviously can't guarantee weather. If I could, I wouldn't be sat here. I'd be swanning around in some, I don't know, palace somewhere. But of course we can't guarantee the weather. Late May stroke early June is the very best time to see gardens in the UK, because if you said early May or late April, I'd be saying, it's on the cusp of the season. Late May, who knows, what sort of spring we'll have. But even if we've had a very late spring, by late May, things are warming up. So honestly, and also more so in the West Country, because we get all the rain coming over from you guys from the West. So if I see storm and clouds and snow and in the US, I know that we're getting it a few days later in the west of England. So that makes the west of England a little bit sort of in advance of, say, the east of England, and it can be wetter, but it's very much ahead of the game. So late May is fine, but obviously I wish I could guarantee the weather, but I can't. you
Well,
know
and Annie, we've been involved for a number of years now, and we chatted up, and sometimes you say by mid-June, late June, it's dry, and all of a sudden
oh,
you've been launched into early
yeah,
summers
yeah,
in the
yeah,
past few years where things start
yeah.
to look burnt out.
Exactly. So, I think even if we've had a wet spring and we're due for a very dry summer, that period of time, late May, early June is good. And Chelsea flower shows are funny. It's always, the weather always sticks in your mind because they're always really hot or they're rainy. There seems to be, and last year it was very, very wet and then suddenly very, very hot, and you see all these people trying to get their gardens together. But generally speaking, by late May, the weather has kind of settled down a bit. So, but who knows? Oh, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? But we're
Exactly.
trying to thread the needle as
Yeah. No, we've plumped.
precisely as we
Yeah,
can.
yeah. I mean, I think we have been more sensible timing this after Chelsea Flower Show than before,
Hmm.
because the spring will well and truly be here. Early summer is on the doorstep. So I think we are safe, knowing that we'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. And let's hope that Marianne S didn't jinx us with snow. Let's hope that.
Absolutely. Don't
Keep
bring
the
any of that
Minnesota
Minnesota
weather.
stuff. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Something just came in on the chat, and someone wanted to know about Kaesong Gardens. We
Yeah.
haven't spoken at all about Kaesong. Can
Right,
you
right.
give us a little bit of
Oh, I mean,
background there?
well, what can I tell you? It is the most extraordinary private garden, one of the most extraordinary private gardens in the UK. Any of you who subscribe to Gardens Illustrated, maybe, I wrote an article about it in last May's issue, so May 24, and you'll see the photographs from Jason Ingram. In fact, you probably still see it on the website, but they do have their own website, Cason Gardens. Just look at that website. I don't want to give all the story away because I want you to be surprised when you get there. But it's owned by the most lovely, lovely couple who've spent a lot of time and energy and love on this garden, which is an old historical site that has been transformed into an organic garden it's just breathtaking, but so different. And I don't want to tell you everything because I want you to get there and go, oh my God, because otherwise, I mean, if you look at the website, you'll see, but it is one of those it's only open on certain days of the year, literally 2 or 3 days a year, and so we're getting a private view, and it only opened a year ago. It's an old historic site, but the renovations and everything, the owners have only opened it last year, so it's still very new, and there's a lot of people in England who haven't seen it, and it's very much, it's everybody's talking about it. So it's you will not be disappointed. It will take your breath away. It really will. Yeah, yeah,
I know just a little bit of the story behind it from
yeah,
talking to
yeah.
you, Annie, and I've seen some of the photos, and it will take your breath away because the photos took my breath away,
Yes, yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
story is
It, it, I,
very interesting.
It is from a historical, industrial point of view, and the topography there. It's beautiful. It's very, very dramatic. That area with very big rolling hills. So yeah, yeah. I don't want to give the game away, but you won't be disappointed.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we have a very practical question from Ruth D, and this was via email. Will this be like another tour I attended recently where I'll be stuck on a bus for hours and hours per day? I understand that not everything can be right next door, but how long can we expect to be on the buses for?
Okay, well, you're absolutely not going to be stuck on a bus. There's only one day where we've got a slightly longer trip, but we have broken that up with James Hitchmo's garden and then down to Devon. And let's say the trip back from Wildside, it'll be 2.5 hours maximum, which again for US standards, that is a short distance, I know.
Mhm.
But no, the rest of it, you will literally you'll sat down and then we'll be there. I mean, because everything is within an arm's reach of Bath. So there's just one day, but I could not organize a trip within in the West Country and you not see Wildside, Keith Wiley's garden. It is the most innovative garden in the UK. And then James Hitchmo's is this new young garden with this brilliant mind. We couldn't not see those, even though we are venturing out, but I think you might enjoy an hour or two on the bus by that time. You might be quite, take the sandwiches, listen to a podcast. No, honestly, the rest of it, 20 minutes, half an hour in each direction. It's not, you won't be just sat on a bus looking at the wind through the windows, honestly.
And I will say that Annie was very, very firm in saying that she did not want to shove everyone onto these giant coaches, that
Yeah,
we've decided instead to do mini buses
yeah, yeah,
in order to be able to properly navigate and get into these
yeah.
small lanes and these smaller gardens
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, the lanes that we're driving down are just a little bit wider than the bus, the minibus itself. So, you won't be on these great big whacking coaches, and so there will be a much more intimate feel about it. And certainly all the gardens and things that we're seeing around Bath, it's really not. Yeah, you will be pleasantly surprised, I think.
Wonderful. All right, so I'm coming down to the end of the questions that have been submitted. As I said, please feel free after the fact. You can email us info@finegardening.com if you think of something. That's always me. I go to bed at night and I go, oh, I should have asked that question and I didn't. So feel free to email us afterwards. But this came in from anonymous via email, and this person wanted to know, what does the mobility of someone need to be to attend this tour? She said, this person said that they have a walker that they use in certain instances. It says on our website that we say that at least 10,000 steps figure per day, if not
Mhm.
more.
Yeah,
Annie, you've been to these gardens,
I
and
have.
what
I
does the
have.
mobility need to be like?
Well, they're all undulating. I'm just thinking, the Houser is relatively flat. It's just a gentle slope. So they are all. I mean, Wildside is particularly undulating, but all of the gardens can be enjoyed from a few key places. So if you get to a garden, you think, do you know what? Everyone else can go off on a long walk. I'm just going to sit in a few key places and enjoy, then that's fine. I don't think there's
Mhm.
any pressure for you to tag along. I wouldn't say it's arduous. I'd say, if you've got a walker, a good pair of shoes, you'll be fine. But I'm just looking. No, everybody, they're all pretty accessible. Not They're not wheelchair accessible,
Mhm.
but that's very much the nature of narrow paths and windy paths and hills. But you won't feel, if you feel like, do you know what, today I just want to take it easy, there are beautiful places to sit and enjoy, and you won't feel left out or compromised. So I would say not to worry about that.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So before we get to the end, I just want to know, because Annie, you have led innumerable tours over the years.
Mhm.
What would you say are a few things that people should remember to pack, to be
Yeah, yeah,
prepared for?
yeah.
Just some tips, some overall travel tips.
Yeah, well, that's good actually, because I went to New Zealand. I always try and bring New Zealand into every single conversation. I went to New Zealand in October, November, and I was exactly that. Or what should I do? Because it was late spring there, and I would say layers. So a good waterproof layer, because this is England. It is the West Country. It could rain. So some good lightweight waterproofs, some good sturdy like running shoes or walking shoes, the things that you would wear if you were going for a little walk or a hike in the US. But layers are the answer, because it could be warm, it could be chilly, and the best thing is just sensible layers. Before I went to New Zealand, I went and bought myself a very nice lightweight jacket and some leggings, because I thought, it could be quite wet down there. Who knows? And actually, I only wore it on one day when it snowed. So but I think the wonderful thing about clothing today, as gardening clothing and walking clothing, is lightweight layers. Bring a fancy dress for supper one evening. Not
Yeah.
Gentlemen can wear a suit, obviously. But honestly, I would just say layers. A good pair of shoes. It's not going to be freezing cold. It's not. Hopefully, it's not going to be snowy, but it shouldn't be.
Yes.
But yeah, but just be sensible. Imagine you are. I mean, I guess if you were going up to Maine, or you're going to Vermont or somewhere like that, where you've got quite, or the Pacific Northwest, where it could be a bit rainy but it's going to be mild. That's the kind of thing. So I wouldn't worry too much. Don't bring too much. Yeah.
Okay. All
Mm.
right. I
And
think
remember,
that's
as Danielle pointed out, we're not going to be packing every night and moving off to another location. So you've only really got to get from the airport to our hotel, then you're done. And I hate, the thing I hate most in the world is packing a suitcase. I always get panicky. You know, have I taken too much? Have I not taken? I always get panicky. And I've learned to pack a little less and just be a bit braver, because you can always wash something out.
That's very true.
And
Very
then
true.
Danielle will know very well about my last trip to the US, when American Airlines very kindly didn't deliver my suitcase with me. So 5 days I was borrowing other people's clothes, which was a lot of fun.
She looked fantastic. She
Oh my
really
goodness.
did. You would
It was
not have known.
it was one of those things where at Chanticleer it was great. But no, honestly, going back to your question, um, layers, you know, a nice lightweight waterproof. I'd say leggings is probably a bit over the top. You shouldn't need leggings, but waterproof, some layers, just so that you can pop a sweater on if you need to. But I don't think you're going to be freezing. Yeah.
Okay, I love that tip. I love that tip. And I will also say that in the chat we did notice someone was asking about, you know, getting from the airport to the hotel and bath. You do not need to worry about that. We are taking care of that. That was also something that we went back and forth on, and we figured,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just the way that airlines are running now, if flights are later, earlier and
Yeah.
such, we wanted to have one evening, a hub up at Heathrow. We're staying at the Hilton in Heathrow. So you don't need to worry about, okay, I need to find my way to Bath. We're going
Yeah.
to get you
Yeah.
all at Heathrow. We're going to check into the Hilton there. We'll have a welcome dinner that evening. Everyone will get to relax for a minute. And
Yeah.
then all together, we will be heading to Bath. And that's where we will meet up with Annie.
Yeah, and the trip from Heathrow to Bath is not very long. If the traffic's good, it's probably 2.5 hours maximum. It's not a huge. It's straight on the M4, so that really isn't a difficult trip. So you know, it's not. Yeah, and you know, you probably have a little snooze anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get ready to the time change.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Annie, I just wanted to thank you so much. I'm going to remind everyone that if you didn't get your question answered, we tried to get through as many as possible. Feel free to email us at info@finegardening.com. We'll be happy to answer those questions after the fact. Annie, I'm getting very excited
Yeah, I am
now.
too. And I'm thinking, oh, it's way off. But you know, we're halfway through January already. So, you know, I'm really I'm doubly excited because, as I said before, I really love taking people to places that are new and exciting and different and not accessible. So it's always doubly exciting when someone's never been there before. And even if they've never heard of it before, it doesn't matter, but you'll discover some amazing people doing amazing things within quite a small radius of the country. Remember, our country is so much smaller than your country, but you know, that's what I'm excited about, because and sharing some of the most special gardens in England, actually, really, you know, that's brilliant, isn't it? You know, in that small space.
It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't stop smiling. I feel like my
Yeah.
cheeks
And the
hurt now after
the
this.
characters as well. It's not just the gardens, the people are amazing too. So, you know, you will enjoy meeting them because they're real characters too. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Annie. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you and hopefully many of you who have tuned in tonight on the tour in
Mhm.
May. And just to let you know, if you need any information about the tour, please stop by info@finegardening.com. You can email us and we will do our best to make sure that this is the right tour for you. Hey, Annie, well, I'll see you before then, but see you in May.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look forward to seeing everybody and meeting everyone. Very excited.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.